The Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew, the 5th chapter. Glory to you, O Lord. Beginning with verse 21, Jesus said to his disciples, "You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, 'You shall not murder,' and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, 'Raca,' is answerable to the court, and anyone who says, 'You fool,' will be in danger of the fire of hell. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them. Then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with them, then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you are still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. It has been said, 'Anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce.' But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, makes her the victim of adultery. And anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you have heard that it was said to the people long ago, 'Do not break your oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vows you have made.' But I tell you, do not swear an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make even one hair white or black. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. This is the gospel of our Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Please be seated. There is a time for playing it safe, and there is a time for risky business. There is a time for playing it safe, and there is a time for risky business. Some of you might recognize that quote from the movie Risky Business, 1983 movie with Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise, as a young teenager, risks being in trouble with his parents to go out for a night of fun with his friends and winds up in danger. And within that movie, we hear the quote, "There's a time for playing it safe, and there's a time for risky business." Vincent Ardolino realized the truth found in that statement when on 9/11, he was sitting in the comfort, the security, the safety of his TV room, watching as 2 planes crashed into the Twin Towers, bringing them down. He watched the destruction, the panic. He watched as thousands of people ran for their lives, leaving Manhattan. He watched the fear on their faces, the chaos, and he watched as thousands of first responders ran into Manhattan, ran into the destruction and the pain and the terror, none of them knowing if there was another plane coming. As Vincent sat in his TV room that day, in his comfort zone, in his safe place, he knew what he had to do, that he had to risk his comfort, his safety, in order to go and be among those who were helping to save lives. You see, Vincent was a ferry captain. And so he went to his ferry along with many other mariners who got on their boats of all different shapes, sizes, and kinds. And that day, in 9 hours, these captains of various kinds of boats rescued 500,000 people without one injury. Why? Because they realized there's a time for playing it safe, and there's a time for risky business. And they risked their safety, their lives, their comfort in order to bring life to the people that they rescued off Manhattan that day. There is a time for playing it safe, and there is a time for risky business. And this is what God calls us to in the Old Testament lesson from Deuteronomy, which is where my message will come from for today. When God says to his people, I lay before you life and death, blessings and curses. Seems like a multiple choice, doesn't it? But then, as any student will tell you, they like getting the answer, because then he says, choose life. I lay before you life and death, blessings and curses, but choose life. Choose life so that you and your descendants may live life. Choose life. Life is found in Jesus. And life in Jesus is a life filled with richness and goals and meaning and productivity. Choose life. But choosing that life in Jesus and following him faithfully can be risky business. It indeed can be risky business, because he will call us to step out of our paradigms. He'll call us to step out of our comfort zones. He'll call us to be used in ways where we feel uncomfortable. And he'll call us over and over and over. But it is there that we find life, a rich and full and productive life, when we step out in faith, following Jesus, and find what he's put in each one of us. Consider Moses. Let's think about Moses. Moses was pretty comfortable, feeling pretty safe and in his comfort zone in the backside of the desert shepherding sheep. He was pretty content there, pretty safe, pretty comfortable, until God calls him. He says, Moses, I want you to go to Egypt, and I'll work through you, but I want you to do battle with Pharaoh, because my people are living in slavery. That's no life. My people are not living the life I intended for them. So I want you to go, and I want you to lead them out of Egypt. And Moses, like me, maybe you, is like, whoa, not me. I'm not the one for you. You've got the wrong guy. I don't speak well, and I'm going to have to be able to speak well in order to do battle, debate Pharaoh. And God reminds him, hey, Moses, who gave you your voice? Who gave you the ability to speak? I gave it to you. I'll work through you. And they go back and forth, and finally, frankly, God gets a little ticked off at Moses. And he's like, fine, you go, and I'll send your brother Aaron along, and he'll speak for you. But if you really read closely, Aaron doesn't speak. Once he gets there, Moses realizes what God has already put in him, and Moses speaks. And because Moses realized there was a time to play it safe, and there was a time for risky business, he goes to Egypt, and he leads God's people out of slavery and into life. Back into life. Life that was full and meaningful and productive. A life of faithfully following God. Mary. Think about Mary. Mary, a young, unwed woman, risks her safety and her reputation, her very life, in order to carry the Christ child in her womb. That could not have been easy for Mary. You know, the whole community had to have been gossiping about her. Yeah, right. Mary says she's pregnant by God. Come on. Come on. What's Mary been up to? You know they gossiped about her. You know they made her feel bad. And back then, to be an unwed mother, you could be stoned to death. Mary risked her very life, certainly her reputation, certainly her comfort, in order to bring the baby Jesus into the world, to bring that life into this world, who grew up to give his life on the cross to pay for the sins of all mankind, so that we would have life, full, rich, productive, faith-filled life. And that life is found in following Jesus faithfully. That life is found in giving ourselves back to one another and to the world. Life is not found in sitting alone in our comfort zone, in our paradigms, in our safety, just thinking about ourselves, just worrying about what we need, just worrying about what we want. Life is found when we pour it out, when we run in the direction of other people's wants, needs, desires, hurt, pain, suffering. There is a time to play it safe. And there's a time for risky business. What about us? What about us? What about you and me as individuals? What about this congregation, Grace Lutheran Church? What about us? Are we willing to risk? Are we as individuals willing to risk getting out of our comfort zones, getting out of our schedules, getting out of our time commitments, getting out of our feelings of inadequacy to go? Will we go when God sends us? Will we go when he opens doors of opportunity? Will we go when we're not comfortable serving at a Sharon Care, food pantry, Liberty Center? When we're not comfortable, will we still go and risk feeling uncomfortable to serve with people that we might not know, and to serve people that might not be just like us? Will we still go and risk that feeling of discomfort in order to allow God to work through us, to be our hands, to serve in those places, to serve people who may not know Christ yet, but maybe they'll see him and receive that life in us, through us, because of us? Are we willing to go across the street, down the street, across town, and visit that person who is sick and dying or grieving, that person that needs the visit, but we don't know what to say? I'm not good with words, like Moses. I won't know what to say. I won't know what to do. I feel inadequate. Will we still risk our own discomfort and trust in faith that if God's sending us, it's already in us? He'll work through us. Just go and bring life to somebody else. Are we willing to invite someone to worship with us? Are we willing to get out of our comfort zone to invite somebody to come to worship with us? And then when they show up, will we get out of our comfort zones and literally out of the place we sit every week to sit with them? And not 1 week, but week after week after week, until they become comfortable here, until they become assimilated? Are we willing to get out of our literal pew and sit with somebody else, fellowship with somebody else, making sure that they're comfortable, giving them the opportunity quite possibly to receive Jesus in this place and life. Life. And as a congregation, are we willing to get out of the paradigms we've always operated in? Are we willing to see changes to our worship service, maybe to the music, maybe to the facility? Are we willing to risk what we've always known, how we've always functioned, what we consider comfortable and important? In order to reach out to a community where there are people who don't know Christ yet, are we willing to make some changes so that they're comfortable here and receive life found in Christ? That's a challenge for the church. And it is a challenge because truth is we're comfortable, aren't we? I'm comfortable in my own life. I like my schedule. I'm a very scheduled person. I like it. But every now and then, God says, come on, I want you to risk your comfort, risk that schedule, and go where I'm sending you. And every time I follow him, I come back blessed. That's the crazy thing about following God. I go where he sends me, I come back blessed. That is the challenge for the church. Here's the good news. Jesus risked leaving the throne room of heaven to come to earth. Gave his life on the cross. Shed his blood to pay for the sins of all mankind. And because he did, because he left his comfort zone and came to earth, he gave us life. Life in abundance, rich and full and productive. How about it? There's a time to play it safe. And there's a time to find life if we're willing to risk it. Please rise and join together for the hymn of the day.